Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today, whether you're listening on the podcast or the TV show. I really appreciate you guys jumping on and having a listen or a watch. If you've got any feedback for the show, appreciate it in the comments or wherever it's distributed. But my name's Matt Fay, and I'm here today with Naomi Ferstera. Welcome, Naomi.
Hello.
Good. Thanks for coming on the show today.
You're welcome.
So Naomi is involved in health and fitness and has been for some time. I've had the pleasure of knowing her for quite some time myself. I think about 10 years now.
About 10 years.
Yeah, so it's been long, hasn't it?
It has been.
Yeah. The focus of our show today, or the focus of this series, is all about storytelling. And so we're taking a bit of a health and fitness spin with some of the upcoming episodes. And so I've got Naomi to jump on and tell a little bit about her story. So Naomi, for the people, the viewers here, the listeners that don't know you, do you want to give a quick intro about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I am an exercise physiologist, which basically means I deal with people who have got chronic illness. If you go to the gym and you have a serious medical condition, you need to have a program written for you by someone who has had university training to make sure that they don't kill you while you exercise. So that's a good thing. So that's where I step in. I step in and help people with cardiovascular disease, diabetes. I specialise in those conditions particularly, also with obesity. So that's really where a lot of my focus has been. A big focus of mine is also on women's health, being a woman, and also with mums. So I have 4 kids, and I've spent a lot of time, with all the ups and downs of pregnancy and weight gain, weight loss, and all the issues that go on with having kids. So that's become a bit of a specialty area of my own. I've been in the industry now for 18 years this year, so I've been around for a while. I started out as a personal trainer while I was finishing my uni degree, and then a few years ago started my own business, running online health and fitness programs and also running boot camps locally. And we're now into corporate health, which is very, very exciting.
Oh, awesome. So that's managing everything in the workplace and making sure people are correct ergonomics and being quite healthy in what they do. Is that
we do the more fun stuff. So I just beat people up.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So we're doing some work with SEQ Water. And they come to the park just near them, and we train for 1 hour every week.
Oh, okay. So it's more getting them out of the office and getting them out in the fresh air and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good that they're taking care of their staff like that. And
it's amazing. Yeah, we certainly need more businesses taking a proactive approach, because it's been worked out that for employers, if they invest into these programs, for every $1 that they spend, they save $3. And that's conservative, because there's much bigger savings when you look at individual areas. But when you sort of spread it out over, all the different areas, it's about a $3 saving.
And is that to do with things like if the person's healthier, perhaps they'll take less sick days and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's something called absenteeism and presenteeism. So absenteeism is where you don't turn up to work because you're sick, but presenteeism is where you do turn up but you're not functional. So you're not very efficient. Okay. You are either unwell or you're tired or what have you, and you don't do your job well. So doing exercise improves both of these areas, and we find that obviously, when people exercise, they tend to then eat better. As they eat better, they get healthier in combination with the exercise. So we see lower rates of chronic illness, we see improvements in chronic illness, weight loss, and just a happier workplace. If your employer provides this service for you, it makes the workplace more enjoyable, and you're more likely then to be loyal to your employer.
And that's a really good culture thing as well.
Yeah, it really is.
Sounds super important. No, that's great. So I guess I'm interested to know what got you into health and fitness. What you said you started off as a personal trainer whilst you're at university. What made you decide that was going to be the path?
So I have always been interested in fitness and sport. I've played pretty much every sport under the sun. So going through school, HB was my favourite subject. And so I think having had an interest in sport, I used to be a swimmer and I swam at a reasonably competitive level. My interest was always in the health, fitness, sport field. So it was sort of a natural progression to go to uni and do exercise science. I also did teaching, so I was a HB teacher for a few years. But then I guess where I'm at right now today, my passion is more towards the nutrition side and chronic illness, and that would be my dad. So My dad developed diabetes about 8 years ago, and that was obviously very, very scary for all of us.
Yeah.
And the dietary recommendations he got weren't great, and he was really struggling. I was a bit worried about where he was going. Did a bit of research myself, and then decided that I would go and study. And so I'm completing my my master's in nutrition.
Oh, great stuff.
So yeah, it's really exciting. But I guess the chronic illness side and the food side, specifically came from worrying about my dad. But in terms of my passion for food and health and fitness, my mum played a huge role in that. She was one of those mums. She made peanut butter for us. We weren't allowed to buy peanut butter because there was too much sugar in it.
Yeah,
we were only allowed Vitabrits. We couldn't have Wheat Bix because the Wheat Bix had too much sugar. We had homemade muesli. She would make banana milk and wholemeal bread.
Did she still allow you like 1 day a week takeaway or one meal a week or something like that?
We were allowed McDonald's once a month.
Really, once a month?
Once a month.
Ours was Thursday night, one meal per week, and we're allowed to choose and it was like the thing I would look forward to every week. Like, what am I going to have like this week? So,
No, my mum was. I can remember thinking as a kid, when I grow up, I'm going to go and eat all the lollies. I'm going to go and eat all the chewing gum. All the stuff that mum always said no to. And it's funny because, you grow up and go, I actually don't really want to eat all the lollies and all the rest of it. But my mum has absolutely built that foundation for me. So my passion for health and fitness has really come from her.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant that she's set that foundation. Now you're off sort of running with it. So.
Yeah, well, you should see what she feeds my kids though. I just look at her and I say, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you and why weren't you around when I was a kid?
She feeds them the treats and lets them go crazy.
Yeah. You get there and within 5 minutes of being there, would you like some ice cream? Would you like an ice block? I'm going, I don't know who you are.
It's clearly a game. She's just winding them up and just going, yes.
Yeah. Here you go, now have your children back.
Have fun, see ya, bye. Awesome stuff. So you're in health and fitness, you've been in it for quite some time, you're doing the corporate stuff and all that sort of thing. Are there some like methodologies that you have around fitness that you specialise in particular?
Look, I think that as a trainer, I think you have to be well versed in a wide range of different formats. So do you mean like with HIIT training or? Yeah,
like I know that some people are, depends what your goals are and depends what you're interested in. I guess, there's some people that might just be focused on the bodybuilding side of things. We have, people doing CrossFit and all these other sorts of things. There's a million different things that will work for different people. What are the things that you specialise in and what you find works for your clients?
Do you know what I think, and it's probably not that sexy, but I think, when it comes to exercise, the simple stuff, getting that right, that's really where the magic happens. So, I see a lot of people in the gym and they're trying to just push heavy weights. And you're going, you know what, if you back those weights off and got your technique right, you would see much better performance, you would see much better results from that. I see people just smashing themselves with HIIT training. And again, we've got to look at the different types of exercise and the different types of training all as individual tools. And you take them out and use them when it's appropriate. You're not going to, try and cut a piece of glass with a sledgehammer. No. You're going to get the right tool for that. And I think in the gym, sometimes we forget that variability is really important. So I try and do combinations of HIIT training so that high intensity stuff is really awesome. It's really safe. It's been researched. We know it works efficiently. But you can't keep smashing people 24/7. So when you do the high intensity, you've got to bring the intensity back down. You've got to do that low intensity type training. So I'm sort of probably a little bit boring in that I think that a bit of everything is the best way to go. And so my training is to try and make sure that I have that well-rounded approach so that my clients get that. So my specialty, I guess, is because I deal with chronic illness, my goal is always fitness. I don't care about anything else to begin with. I just want to get people fit because fitness is protective. We've got, in Australia, 33% of all deaths are due to cardiovascular disease. It's the #1 killer. So a really great way to protect against cardiovascular disease is to improve your cardiovascular fitness.
Makes sense.
And that's what we do. So I get people fit and then we go from there.
Yeah, no, awesome stuff. And just on that, you're talking about being well-rounded and things like that. There's no cookie-cutter approach, is there really? Like you can have two similar people. You can't just make them do the same things and expect the same results, can you? And they'll
No.
probably beat themselves up a little bit inside if they're doing the same things as this other person, not getting the results. Is that why you try and be fairly well-rounded in what you can deliver?
Yeah, and I think the problem is that you've said something really important there, is that people look at what other people are doing and they're like, well, they did it this way and that was their results. So I'm going to do it that way and I expect the same results. And it's unfair, but it doesn't work like that. You know, genetics, unfortunately, friend or foe. Your genetics are going to work for you or they're going to work against you. And there's not much you can do about your genetics, but what you can do is accept the way your body shape is or the body type that you have, and then you train the best that you can just to suit you know, the genes that you have, and you accept that, you know, if you've got, say, little calves, no matter how many stairs you do, no matter how many, you know, what's called calf raises you do, you may not ever see that you get really massive big calves. It's just the way that it is. So when you start training, take the approach that what works for someone doesn't necessarily work for you. And the most important thing is, are you enjoying what you're doing? Because if you hate the training, there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to adhere to it. And if you don't adhere to the exercise program, it's not going to work.
Well, even no matter what you're doing, if you're doing it 1 day a week as opposed to 4 or 5, even if it isn't the perfect thing for you, you're still going to see more results doing it 4 times a week, aren't you?
Absolutely. So, look, I think people need to understand that with food and exercise, there is no cookie cutter approach. There is not one single way to do it. We are given a set of tools with both diet and with exercise, and we take out an appropriate tool at the right time. And we've got to learn to listen to our bodies. You know, I see a lot of people getting stuck in plateaus, and I was like, when was the last time you had some rest? And they haven't taken any time off from the gym in a year. You know, you look at the elite level athletes, they don't train like that. So why are you training like that? You know, you've got to take that time off. You've got to have that rest. You've got to bring the intensity down sometimes and allow your body to go through that recovery process. So,
no, that definitely makes sense.
Cool.
So there's something that I'm interested in at the moment. There's a lot of fad diets, trends, things like that. Sometimes you don't know where to get your information from and what's correct. If there's one health and fitness or dieting tip or whatever it may be that you could give to people, what would it be?
My number one tip is intermittent fasting. So it is, for me, something that is so easy to do. It's free. Just don't eat for a little while. And most people are going to get huge benefits from doing it. So
And what does intermittent fasting incorporate? Obviously, not abstaining for a certain amount of time, but what are all the things that it incorporates?
So with intermittent fasting, it is exactly what it sounds like. It is an intermittent abstinence from food. Now, the easiest way of getting started is doing what's called a 16-8 fast, where you fast for 16 hours and then you eat in an 8-hour window. I encourage people to have their evening meal, because you're already going to fast overnight while you're asleep, so you've already done half of the work in your sleep.
Easy.
So then when you wake up, rather than eating straight away, try and push your first meal back. If you can push it back to mid-morning or to lunchtime, perfect. And it's really pretty much that simple. Now, when we look at the research on intermittent fasting, it's quite interesting. There's lots and lots of research showing how good it is, and what they're suggesting is that intermittent fasting is an alternative to a low energy diet. Now, we know low energy diets are linked to longevity. So whatever the mechanism is behind the low energy diet, it promotes a long and healthy life. Intermittent fasting does the same thing. Now, most people can't stick to a low energy diet. It's too hard, you know, and you watch people who try and calorie control all the time, and they're usually pretty miserable people because they're hungry, and that's fair enough. I'm pretty miserable when I'm calorie counting.
Hangry, I think is that word you're looking for?
Yeah, they are very hungry. I'm not a nice hangry person, so I feel them. But basically what the fasting does is it mimics those benefits, and it's a lot easier to stick to. So people find it a lot easier to abstain from food for 16 hours rather than for forever being on a low energy diet. There's a few variations on fasting at the moment. So there's something called the 5-2 diet by Dr. Michael Mosley, which is the blood sugar diet. And basically it's where on 2 days you are eating 500 calories, and then on the other 5 days you eat your regular diet. My issue with this is that I'm finding that on the days when you're meant to eat your regular diet, people are binging because they were really hungry from the previous days.
They're going overindulging.
Yeah. In fact, my sister tried the 5-2 diet many years ago, and she actually gained weight while doing it. And I keep hearing that, and that's because people are starving once that low-calorie day is over, and they're overcompensating the next day. And that's very normal. We hear this all the time.
Yeah.
So I tend to find that the best form of the intermittent fasting is just in that 16-hour to 24-hour period, and then eat in that window afterwards. The thing to be mindful about fasting, though, is that it works in combination with feasting. So when you fast, you are going into something called nutrient stress, and that's where the magic happens. So you go into nutrient stress, your body goes, why haven't you fed me? We've woken up and, you haven't put any food in.
What have I done to you?
Yeah. I thought we were friends. And so it goes, well, if you're not going to feed me, I'm going to eat you. And what it does is it starts breaking down your cells. So it starts, and this process is called autophagy. And autophagy is essentially like a little Pac-Man process, and it engulfs. It comes around, engulfs.
Waka.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. They were all thinking it.
Everyone's thinking the same thing.
Or so long as they're old enough to know about
that's
the Pac-Man games.
If there's anyone under 20, probably don't know.
Probably has no idea what we're talking about.
Actually, no. Nostalgia's bringing these things around. I actually saw Tamagotchis for sale the other day,
This
so
is true.
it's bringing it around. But anyway, we digress. That's what you were saying.
So the little Pac-Men are going around and they're eating up your cells. Now, this is important because what it does is it gets rid of old cells, it gets rid of funky cells that aren't really coping so well, and so your body breaks them down. Now, that's good because those cells are the ones that lead to chronic illness. They lead to disease. So you want to get rid of those. You want to promote, basically, it's like a cleanup process inside of your body, and that's what fasting does. Now, that happens in nutrient stress. If you then want to build more cells again, so you've gotten rid of the old stuff and you want to build new stuff, you need more materials.
Yep.
And the way to do that is to?
Feast.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've got to make sure after you fast, you get that food back into your body again.
It all just sounds pretty logical, really, doesn't it?
It really is. And I think that's part of the problem at the moment with the dietary guidelines and, all the information coming out of the media. It's all about fear. It's all about,
everything is bad for you. In any amount.
Yeah. And I think if we just went, you're saying butter's going to kill me?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Are you really sure about that? So I think we've got this really over-frenzied media, terrifying the masses.
Yeah.
And if we just stopped and thought about it for a moment, we go, well, you know what, that actually makes a lot of sense, or that doesn't make a lot of sense. And to apply logic to some of these things, I think if you did that, you'd probably be able to make some pretty good decisions. But look, the other thing about fasting that's amazing is that we tend to eat habitually. So we have these little habits. You wake up in the morning and you're like, well, it's 7 a.m. it's breakfast time, and so you're eating to these schedules. Whereas fasting is able to get rid of some of those habits. It's able to get rid of what we call conditioned responses. So a conditioned response is basically a conditioned response. It's where something that shouldn't make you think about food makes you think about food and makes you hungry. So as an example, I might look at the clock and it's 12 o'clock, and if I'm at work, 12 o'clock might be my lunch break. And so I immediately get hungry because it's now 12, rather than actually physically being hungry. So our body can sort of trick us into thinking we need to eat because we've come to a cafe, or we've gone to the movies, or we've gone, we're watching a movie at home on the couch, and all of a sudden you want chips or popcorn and all the rest of that. So fasting helps us break those habits.
And we're creatures of habit, I guess. So the more that we do that, the more our bodies are going to think, it's time, even though it's not, aren't we? So how we're scheduling and all that kind of thing is playing a part. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's probably for me has been one of the best things about fasting is that I've learnt to listen to my body and know when I'm really hungry.
Yeah.
Hunger seems to come in waves, and I tend to find I'll get a first wave of hunger in the morning and then it goes away, surprisingly, if I just leave it. And so I've worked out that I'm usually not really hungry until about lunchtime.
Yeah.
And that's become my daily routine now. But the whole point is that if you are hungry, you don't keep fasting, you don't try and push through that, you don't ignore those messages. It's all about learning to trust that our body is able to cue our hunger, but you've certainly got to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
It has become a bit of a, maybe not necessarily a fad, but it has become very, very popular. And something that I get asked about all the time is it okay for women? The research on women and fasting hasn't been particularly favourable. It's always been a little bit, doesn't look like it possibly is ideal. And I would counter that. When we look at fasting, unfortunately for a lot of the women who would have been in these fasting studies, it's likely that they were already following a low-calorie diet or a low-energy diet. That's already fasting. So if you are already fasting by following a low-energy diet and then you add fasting to it, you're going to put yourself into severe nutrient stress, and it's not going to have a good outcome for you.
No, it doesn't sound good.
No, and they were probably very hangry. Very, very hangry.
There's a bunch of hangry people in the one place. I wouldn't want to be there.
A bunch of hangry women.
Wouldn't want to mess with them.
I don't know why. I bet the researchers didn't write anything. They're probably too scared. So.
Yeah, they're like, no, they're all fine.
They're fine.
It's good. Yeah.
So
what do I do?
Yeah. So you've got these women who are likely already low calorie. We've got to be careful about exercise too. If you've got huge, big exercise routines going on, then fasting's probably not going to be ideal for you. If you're an athlete and you're training, 6 hours a day, I don't think fasting is going to be a good strategy for you.
And that's we talk about athletes, we spoke about like elite athletes and that kind of thing before. Look at someone like Michael Phelps and the stuff that he eats. I mean, it's fairly well documented that he'd smash down ice cream, pizza, chips, whatever. Yeah. I would imagine at that point it's not as important as to what he's eating, but it's just getting the fuel in because he's burning it straight away.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting anyone should go and eat all that stuff, and I'm sure that you wouldn't either. But that there too, that's one like really extreme scenario that you've got there, like peak Olympic athlete of probably all time.
Yep.
And then the average person just that's not going to be the same, is it?
No, of course not. No. And I think we lose that sometimes. We forget that there's so much individuality that comes into play, even just whether or not you like it. If you've started fasting and you're hating it, why are you still doing it?
Yeah.
Fasting, like before I was talking about with the exercise and the different types of training we should do, fasting's another tool. You might want to use this one or you might not, and it might not ever be appropriate for you. Women who are pregnant should not be fasting. If you're breastfeeding, you should not be fasting.
Different things going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. I get a lot of women asking me about fasting and they're still feeding, and I just say to them, once you finish breastfeeding, that's when you can consider adding some fasting into your routine. But if you suddenly drop your energy while you're breastfeeding, it's going to drop your milk supply, or it's going to affect your milk supply. So you really don't want to be doing that. No. If you have to take medication, that has to be taken with food. You can't fast. You can't not take. You can't not eat.
You have to have something when you eat.
Yeah. Because it affects the way that the medication acts on your body. The food's really important. There could be some medical conditions where you go, you know what, fasting's probably not ideal. If I've got a girl or a guy who comes to see me and they've got an eating disorder, I'm not going to be encouraging them to be fasting, because that's unfortunately can steer them back down that path again if it's not well monitored. And how do I have the ability to monitor someone for 24 hours?
No, you just don't.
You don't. So there are times when you go, it's probably not appropriate to fast, but you don't know until you give it a shot. Yeah. And there are lots of health benefits, and it's my favourite little habit, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be okay for everybody else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And when you talk about fasting for 16 hours or whatever it is, can you still eat small amounts of food in that time, or like what would you can still have coffees and things like that, can't you? Like just to keep if you are feeling your energy drop, you can do things like that and still have the same effects.
So So I only have black coffee, but for people who are fasting who don't like black coffee, a bit of cream in the coffee is fine. Yeah. You don't want anything that is going to stimulate insulin, because insulin is going to, it ends up stopping that autophagy process, so that Pac-Man little process, which is really important. And this is why I just say, don't eat at all. I find it easier to just not eat. I find that as soon as I start eating, I get really hungry, and it keeps going. And the
body's like, you gave in.
Yeah. So now I'm going to punish you for that.
Yeah.
Now go eat a Mars bar.
Yeah.
But I find with my clients that they experience the same thing. It's easier for them just to not eat than to have something small and keep going. Yeah. But everybody's different. But I would say to anyone who is interested in trying fasting, if they find it very difficult to do it without any food, think about shortening the fasting window rather than having something to eat. So even if you started off with a 12-hour fast, that's still pretty good. Yep. If you can push it longer, go for it. But remember, once the fast is over, feast. Have something to eat. And good food. Go for protein. Protein is number one post-fast. You want protein, a little bit of fat that goes with that, and then if you've got some space, a little bit of veggies or whatnot.
Again, just seems pretty logical.
Yeah.
Like not high in the sky, crazy.
Yeah,
we've just figured this out.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's just seems
And it
tried
makes
it just seems tried and tested. Over time.
Sorry, and that's what I was going to say is that it makes sense from a human history perspective. Like if you think about the way in which we used to live off the land.
Yeah.
So you would have gone long periods without food because you were busy, you were farming, you had to go catch an animal to kill it and eat it.
There's a beast. Okay, now we can eat.
Yeah, exactly right. So you didn't have the food abundance that we have now, and this is part of our problem.
True. Yep.
We are absolutely spoilt for choice.
Yep.
And I don't think anyone's going to have a food shortage problem anytime soon.
Yeah, understandable. And talking about fasting as well and sort of abstaining, I guess the thing that I'm interested there is that Pac-Man process that we were talking about of all the cells breaking down and generating the newer, healthier cells. Is that different to a detox then? That's a different sort of thing because we spoke about cleaning out the system. That's a different process still.
Yeah, so our body, detox processes are, I guess when we think about it from a health perspective, they're usually a bit meaningless. Our body detoxifies itself every single day, and if it didn't, we'd be dead.
And that's where I was going with that, is that, our bodies are doing this anyway through eating proper foods in the correct amount of time. So it's doing that anyway, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
taking care of itself.
Absolutely. So the liver, the skin, the kidneys, they are all working together to help detoxify our body.
Yeah.
So, I would say to people who are interested in detox diets, don't waste your money on them. Okay, don't waste your money on them because there's no science to say that they work. And if you actually want to detoxify your body, probably the best way of doing it is just to fast.
Yeah.
Do a fast for a short period of time. Yeah. And then after the fast, have something really good to eat. And you've just done your body a massive favour.
Yeah.
So, and it's free.
Yes,
it's
that's
free.
the best.
I'm not a very good marketer.
It literally is free because you're not eating.
Yeah.
You're not even spending money on food.
I wish I could charge for fasting. I wish I could put some money on this.
There's nothing to charge here for.
I can't sell you anything because here, have some air.
Yeah.
Have some water. Other than
that will cost you that air.
Yeah.
All good. So we just covered intermittent fasting and how best to go about that, some of the best practices to get started. You spoke about part of that being feasting and eating well.
Yep.
Do you have any theories around what foods to eat and that kind of thing?
So glad you asked, Maddie. Look, I absolutely do. And, I've built my business around what's called LCHF or low carb healthy fat. We've moved away from high fat because we felt like the message of high fat was it was leading people sort of down the garden path a little bit.
Down like chips and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, people are chasing fat unnecessarily. Okay. When we look at really good sources of protein, most of those good sources of protein come with, wonderful sources of fat as well. So when we look at things like steak and fatty fish, chicken, eggs, cheese, dairy, they are beautiful combinations of fat and protein. And oftentimes, just eating those foods is all that you need. I see a lot of people and they're spooning butter, eating it, and they're drinking. Oh, there's lots of people.
I haven't met these people.
No. Look, and I understand. I love butter. Yeah. I'm the first person to say, hey, I get it. Yeah. But unfortunately, we deal, particularly in our business, we deal with people who have got issues with their metabolic health, particularly from a hormonal perspective. So they're very resistant to weight loss already. Now, if you've got someone who's really struggled with weight their whole life and you just douse them with lots and lots of dietary fat, they gain weight. No surprises, really. So what we found that by talking about healthy fat, it contextualized it more that it is always about quality. We are after food quality. We want really good sources of protein. We want good sources of fat. We want good sources of carbohydrate. And none of the macronutrients, carbs, protein, and fat, none of them are bad. They're all good for us. We've just got to, absolutely. And we've just got to make good choices around that. So really what we say to people is the heart of LCHF is just meat and 3 veg. And this is why I get so surprised about the hoo-ha that goes on around it. I was investigated, or I had a complaint made against me, to my professional body for the promotion of LCHF guidelines. Now, that took months to deal with, and all it was, and when I spoke to my governing body, they even said to me they weren't worried about me as an exercise physiologist. They were more than happy with me in that manner. They were concerned about the LCHF guidelines. And so we had to go through this big process, and it was really it was very time consuming. It cost me money. It's frustrating. I now have, when I re-register, I have to meet certain criteria to make sure that I can continue to re-register with this governing body, which is, it is what it is. But we're talking about food. Do you know what I mean? Like, we look at the dietary guidelines and it's a promotion of lots of carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is the only non-essential nutrient. We've got essential fatty acids, we've got essential amino acids. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. Yet we're told to eat the bulk of our diet from carbohydrate. In our body, carbs are burnt in a couple of hours. And this is why people who follow a high carb diet are hungry all the time. So they have their meal and then within a few hours they need to eat again. And then they have something to eat and then they need to eat again very frequently. So this is why we've got breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner,
And a
all
snack
day.
usually comes in the form of something like a bar or a wheat or like something that's got lots of carbs in it.
Yeah, and all these prepackaged
Chips or
foods, they've all got sugar in it. So you're having sugar at breakfast, sugar at your snack, sugar at lunch, because all of these foods are containing, sugar in them. So you get to the end of the day and you think, well, you know what, I ate really well. I ate a healthy lunch and all the rest of it, and people don't understand that there was sugar in every single meal, and they get to the end of the day and then they have dessert as well, and you've ended up with a lot of sugar. And we know that high amounts of sugar are problematic. Sugar is not bad. Sugar is not the devil. Sugar is not whatever. We are talking about an overconsumption of sugar being a problem. So if you are having an apple, you can relax. It's fine. We're not saying that apple's going to kill you and give you a heart attack, but what we're saying is that when you're eating a heavily processed diet, which unfortunately the dietary guidelines tends to skew towards, because people are going for carbohydrate-based foods, they're not reaching for celery and carrot, they're reaching for those biscuits, as you said. So they want saladas or crackers or what have you, and they're putting stuff on top. They're reaching for the easy, convenient, 99% fat-free foods that are all,
just 100% full of some other junk.
Yeah. They should eat the box. The box is probably better for them than what's in it. And when we look at our population, we don't see a healthy population. We see people who've got diabetes, cardiovascular disease. In Australia, diabetes is the fastest growing chronic illness. We have someone being diagnosed with diabetes every few minutes. That's shocking.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's horrible. And it's not I've got diabetes. It's like, well, do you like your feet? Do you like your hands?
Yeah.
Do you like being able to see?
Yeah.
Because diabetes ruins all of that.
It does.
And by the time you get your diabetes diagnosis, it is likely that you've had high insulin, if you've got type 2 diabetes, and high blood sugar for a very long time, years.
Yep.
They estimate that you can have high insulin something like, I think it was like 2 decades, 20 years before you get a diagnosis of diabetes. Now, that is creating havoc through your body.
Yep.
And yet we've got the dietary guidelines promoting the very food that, diabetics should be avoiding.
Yeah.
It's, and I just sit here and I think, and we're arguing over a couple of 100 grams of carbohydrate.
Yeah.
That's what all this hoo-ha is about.
Yeah.
And you just think, come on, people, it's just food.
Yeah.
And the bulk of the LCHF diet is real food.
Yep.
So it's protein,
Yep.
have some steak, have some chicken, have some fatty fish, nuts and seeds, a little bit of fruit, have lots of veggies.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a bad diet to me.
Once again, like what you spoke about with intermittent fasting, like they all just seem like logical things that we should be doing. They don't seem outlandish. It's just eating the good foods that are there for us, not having stuff that's in a package or something like that. They're just things that you would have been probably told as a kid from your mum.
Yeah,
and things
from
like
my
that.
mum. Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
They all just make sense to me that we would do that.
And it's, I guess when you sort of think about it, every single person's different. So doesn't it make sense that each of us are going to have different macronutrient ratios that suits us? So when someone's decided that they want to go low in carbohydrate, they want to lift up their fat and protein, and they're feeling great, they're really healthy, wouldn't you expect that, the Dietitians Association of Australia and the Australian government goes, hey, excellent, well done. You are now not going to become a burden on our healthcare system.
Exactly.
You're not going to develop diabetes. You're healthy, you're thriving. It doesn't matter what your macronutrient ratio is. It doesn't matter if it's slightly different, because it's likely that for each of us, there is going to be of variability. We know people can be healthy on a low-fat diet. They can be. We've got lots of research that shows us. So if you can put together a well-constructed, high-carbohydrate, low-fat diet, there is you can be healthy. The problem is that a lot of people can't stick to them because they're hungry. And when you're hungry, you make bad food choices. And this is the issue that we're having, is you're having breakfast, snack, lunch, snack. So there's all these opportunities to reach for the wrong foods.
Derail.
Yeah, and people do. And so what we're finding with LCHF, one of the best things about it is the food is delicious, but it's really satiating. So you have, your first meal at lunch. I've got people saying to me who were freaking out about fasting and going, oh, no, I'm never going to fast, Naomi. I'll do your program, but I'm not going to fast. And I go, okay, all right, no worries. And they'll have their first meal and they go, Naomi, I'm not hungry. I'm like, oh, really? Tell me about this. Tell me about this lack of hunger that you have. And everyone...
I'm automatically doing it.
And I said, well, how long has it been since you ate? And they'll say, oh, I ate at lunchtime yesterday. I'm like, well, you've just done a fast.
You just did it, yeah.
Congratulations. And it's because when you up your protein and up your fat, you're full for a long time. And doesn't that make sense? Like if we were living off the land and we had to eat when we could, wouldn't it make sense that you go for the food that's going to fill you up for the longest?
And give you the energy for the longest period of time. And is that one of those differentiating things between having the normal carbohydrates and your any carbohydrates and those healthy fats, is that because those carbs are burnt quicker, you're going to have to keep eating, whereas if you can have that the healthy fat as an energy source, that's going to be sustained for longer. That's the underlying principle there, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I find that people who aren't hungry are more likely to stick to a diet. People who aren't hungry are happy. And people who aren't hungry, they're more likely to be able to put together their meals and not reach for bad food because they're not hungry, they're not starving. When you get really hungry, you make a bad choice. When one of the things, like I said, when I find on our program is people aren't really that hungry, and they're sort of like, when it comes to mealtime, they're like, I just had a little bit of something because I wasn't actually that hungry. And so their food consumption is coming down, and that's a big part because we know people are overeating. So their food volume is coming down, their food eating frequency is coming down, and they are two key parts to getting people to lose weight and to keep it off. I mean, that's a no-brainer. If you can get people to eat less and eat less frequently, isn't that a win? I think that's a win. And they're doing it by themselves.
And getting that result as well. And if you're, it just makes sense too, like if you're eating well, if you're feeling good, then you're probably more likely to exercise more, exercise better when you're doing it. It just sounds all-encompassing to me.
And that's a huge part. People don't exercise oftentimes because they're just tired. They're so tired. And it's really hard to make someone go and do something they already don't want to do when they're exhausted. And I find that with changing the macronutrient ratios around, we get a whole lot of energy. And people getting these energy bursts and they're like, I actually did go and do some exercise and I feel awesome.
That's awesome. Is there do you find different people respond better to training at different times of the day? Because I know that, so if you're doing, if I'm fasting, which I've done ever since sort of talking to you about this, because it makes sense, I exercise in the morning because I know that, I've got nothing in my gut so far, and I'm going to feel good throughout the day. But I know people, that might not work for them, might not work for their schedules, they might not be a morning person, they might go the other way around. Is there an optimal time to exercise, or is it, again, you try and tailor it to the person's lifestyle or what they enjoy?
Well, there's two really important things here, and I'm so glad you brought this up. The first one, when it comes to exercise, do it when you're most likely to do it. People argue about hormonal profiles and benefits and whatnot. Do it in the morning versus doing it in the afternoon. You know what? If I can just get people to do it,
that's a win.
I don't care when you're doing it. Once you're into a routine and you're trying to fine-tune your program and you're trying to get that 2% benefit, okay, then you can start talking about when you should do different things. My thing is getting people started, actually getting them to do it. If you're a morning person, jump up and do it in the morning. If you're not, do it in the evening. I find most people are able to find a million excuses why not to do it in the evening, and so it's better for them to do it in the morning. It's done. You just get up on autopilot and get it out of the way. But when it comes to fasting and exercise, there is some considerations to take into play here. When it comes to cardio, doesn't matter if you do it fasted. I like doing it fasted. I actually find I get a little bit of a buzz when I do it. And you don't have to eat afterwards either. So you can do your fasting, do your cardio, and you can continue to fast if you wanted to. So there's no real sense of urgency around eating. When it comes to weight training, you do have a 4 to 6 hour window either side where you are primed for food. So this is this optimal period. Once upon a time, the supplement dudes and the bros got in and said you've got to fuel up straight away. And so there's these guys having their they're doing their amino acid BCAAs while they're training because you've got to get it in straight away. We've come a long way, and we know that nutrient timing is important. But the body's not that sensitive. So you've got 4 to 6 hours either before training, 4 to 6 hours after training, where it is optimal to put fuel into your body. So if you're going to do a weight session, I would say, and you're wanting to do a fast, I would probably eat sometime before you do your weight session, and obviously not right before you do it because it feels horrible. Then do your weights and then fast afterwards. Otherwise, you can do the fasting prior to the weight training, but I do find that people feel a bit flat doing a long fast and then weight training. So it's all about playing with it. But just remember, pre or post training, 4 to 6 hours, good amount of protein, some carbohydrate and some fat.
Perfect.
Steak and veg.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Simple. Cool. So we've spoken about a few things about different types of training, diet, exercise, things like that. Niching down just a little bit here. So you're a female that obviously trains other females. One thing I'm interested to know, and if we've got female listeners or viewers here, how important weight training can be to women, and if you'd advise them to incorporate that into their training.
Yeah, look, I'm always surprised, like in this day and age, that women are still cautious about doing weight training. I understand that they're cautious about going to gyms and doing weight training, but being cautious of the weight training itself does surprise me. The girls that will say, oh, I don't want to get bulky, or I don't want to get big, or who say things like, I just want to lose weight first and then I'll do weight training. Weight training is magic. It just makes every system of your body work better. We become more functional when we do weight training, so you are able to live better. If you can't move your own body weight properly, that's not very functional. Just being able to squat down to the ground to pick something up and then to stand back up again. There's a lot of people out there that can't do that. They don't have the leg strength to do that. Now that's not functional at all. From a weight loss perspective, the building of lean tissue is so important. When we look at the research on people who've lost weight and who've managed to keep it off, and keep it off is usually looked at about 12 months. If you've lost weight for 12 months, that's usually like the little magic time frame.
That's successful here.
Yeah. So if you've kept it off for 12 months, there's a pretty good chance that weight's going to stay off for life. But when we look at those people, most of them, I'd like to say all, but you can't say all, but most of them were physically active, they're exercising. And the reason that is so important is that it builds this lean tissue. And when you lose weight, you want to preserve your lean muscle mass or your lean tissue or your lean mass, because it protects your metabolism. Now, when you lose weight, your metabolism is going to slow down a little bit because metabolism is driven purely by mass. So bigger people have faster metabolisms. Smaller people have smaller metabolisms, makes sense. So when you do lose weight, your metabolism will go down. But we want to try and preserve it as much as possible, because when your body starts to slow down, what that then means is you then have to slow down the amount of energy you're putting into your body. Otherwise, if you lose weight and your metabolism, goes in the ground, and you go and try and eat the sort of food you were eating before, your weight's going to go back on. And that's what we see. People lose weight, they gain it back. They lose weight, they gain it back. So we've got that, that horrible cycle going on. And weight training is very, very protective of metabolism. It improves hormone sensitivity. It improves the function of every system of the body. I find that when people weight train, it gives them beautiful results in terms of the shape of their body. It's protective against, on our bone health, our bone density, and a lot of women develop osteoporosis going into menopause, so it's very protective in that way. And it's just empowering to walk into a gym and just put these weights on and just lift it and just to do things you never thought you could do before. You just feel like, rah, you feel awesome. And to give that to women in particular who are a bit timid or they're a bit cautious,
Yeah.
you know, it's an awesome thing. So there is absolutely no reason why anyone should not be doing weight training.
Yep.
You won't get bulky.
Yep.
You won't get big. We don't have enough testosterone
Yep.
to develop like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But there are women who do have higher levels of testosterone in their body, and you do have to consider, you know, that when you do train people. So if someone's, say, got PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, ovary syndrome, you do need to consider that maybe putting mass weights into their program is not going to be ideal for them, and they might benefit more from like a functional type program where they're doing a lot of body weight type stuff and medicine ball work.
But it's still not just slamming on a treadmill or the cycle on the bike. Like it's still getting that functional fitness in.
Yeah. So what we're talking about before at the start with the different types of training, this is where you've just got to get out a different tool for this person. So they would probably benefit from some high intensity circuits where you are doing still more repetitions, but using, say, body weight, maybe doing some plyometric type work with them, so some jumps, power type, low weight power type exercises, still giving them, you know, the muscle definition that they want, still helping them to burn fat, but not sticking them on, you know, a leg press and putting 300 kilos on there. Because you are likely to see with someone, a female with a higher level of testosterone, she is going to get a lot of muscle mass. So it does come down to hormonal profile. There's, you know, evidence around when to do your weight training as well with the female cycle. There are benefits for different times of the cycle to train. So there's awesome research being done on women and weight training, and it is all positive. All positive.
So they should all just try and own it.
Yeah. Get out there. And you know what? Go to the gym, get yourself a trainer and pay someone to show you how to do it. Even if you just buy a 10-pack of sessions with a PT, make that investment into yourself, get them to show you how to do it properly, and you're not going to look back. And you don't have to continue on with having someone train you, but at least make the investment to learn. To get it done properly.
And that's the thing, like it's a knowledge thing, I guess, because I can understand male or female, it doesn't matter. Like if it's like your first time in a gym or somewhere like that, it can be a bit daunting, and that possibly comes from just not knowing. I know that when I first started training, I was lucky. I just had a mate of mine that I had for years that you know, he was there every day, and I just went and he just showed me stuff to do every day. And you know, a few months down the track, I knew not everything. I still don't know everything, but I knew enough to just go there myself and just not have to worry too much about what I'm doing. So it sounds to me like knowledge is the key to them to getting started. Like you mentioned, that walking into a gym can be daunting, but also that getting out of your head of like, I'm going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, because the fact is these blokes here are trying to look like him and don't. And
they're struggling.
You know, and they're putting in all the efforts and they're not quite getting there. So it's probably not something for them to be afraid of. But
not at all.
Yeah, so getting some coaching is probably a good place to start then.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, you know, make that decision to go and do it. And there should be some peace of mind in this. When I go to a gym for the first time, I get nervous because I don't know all the equipment. Like I do not know every single piece of equipment in gyms. Sometimes I look at a piece of equipment and I'm like, I don't actually know what that is. And so I'll have to have a look at it and I'll have a read and I'm like, oh yeah. And I just stick a little bit of weight on it, or I go no weight on it, and I have a bit of a play with it until I've figured out how to do it. So as an exercise physiologist who's been in the industry for almost 20 years, I get intimidated walking into gyms. I get a bit nervous when I'm looking at equipment that I'm not 100% familiar with. So everyone feels it.
I'll hope that gives some people some peace of mind then.
I hope so, or else nobody trusts me anymore.
And they do, like a lot of gyms do seem to cater for women as well, and the fact that you do have your women-only gyms if that's where you want to start off. I know Good Life at least the Chermside one I go to occasionally, they've got a women's section, so you can still, you know, if you are a little bit daunted, you can go there just to start.
Yeah, of course. So. And you know, when you sign up to the gym, and don't think about it, just go do it. Just go do it. But you know, if you sign up to the gym, say to them, look, I would really like some help with the weights. I don't know how to use the weights. Make that statement straight up so that they know to hook you up with a trainer. And if you are, you know, intimidated by training with guys, ask for a female trainer. You can absolutely do that. So you can get yourself a female trainer who's going to spend time with you showing you how to do all the weights, and just say to them, you know, say to your trainer, my whole goal is to learn how to use all of this. I want you to teach me. So rather than them just smashing you on, 3 different pieces of equipment,
and another one, and another one.
Yeah. Just tell them I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
So they understand that they're taking you on these sessions to show you how to do it properly, make sure your technique is okay for you to then become a little bit more autonomous.
Awesome. That sounds like a good place to start.
Yep.
Another thing I'm interested to know your thoughts on, we've just had the Christmas period.
Yep.
I mean, some people are probably still in holiday mode. Lucky if you are.
Yep.
I'm not. But anyway, over that festive period, it's obviously very easy to indulge. But keeping healthy and that sort of thing, you still want to be social, don't you?
Yeah,
you still want to have an active social life. Can you give any kind of tips or guidelines for people that do want to maintain a healthy diet, exercise, etc., but still not miss the birthday party, the wedding, or whatever it is that's coming up?
And that's, I think, something that's really, it can be hard trying to find that balance. We don't want to miss out on life's experiences.
No.
That's not a way to live.
Because you're here to be healthy to enrich those experiences.
Yeah, of course. Life is more than a diet. And we have to make this diet work for us. We're not working for it. We're not a slave to it. And this is why I love fasting. So one of the things is that if I go somewhere and I know I'm going to have cake and chocolate and alcohol, and I do. What I tend to do the following day is I fast. And I try and make it a long fast. So I try and offset what I did the day before by having a fasting period afterwards. Not only do I feel like it helps with that additional energy that I ate that was well above my normal energy requirements. The next day I've lowered my energy requirement, so I'm balancing that out. But it also helps change my mindset, because I think sometimes when you do have those splurges, it's really easy to let it keep going.
Or gain momentum in the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction. And so all of a sudden, Christmas has been going on for 6 months.
Yeah.
And you're like,
oh, now it's Easter in like 3 weeks.
So I may as well just keep going.
Yeah, after Easter, half the year's gone.
Yeah. What happened? Yeah. And it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, I've been there. It's all right.
I've been there before. So the fasting for me helps reset that when you make the decision, right, party time's over.
Yeah.
I'm going to now do a fast, and I find throughout the year I am not going to not go somewhere because I'm worried about what food they're serving. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I am not a slave to my diet. And if I'm going to someone's house and they're feeding me, I would never not eat the food offered to me. I think that is so rude.
Yeah.
The only time I wouldn't eat the food is if I actually was going to have an allergic reaction to it, or it was going to make me sick.
Yeah.
Other than that, if someone's offering me food, I'm going to eat it and be grateful that I have a meal.
Yeah.
Again, I do the fasting around those sorts of periods.
Yep.
Yesterday we had a pool party.
Yep.
Woohoo! Adults only pool party. It was awesome. So before I went, I had some ocean trout, some spinach, and I took some salted macadamia. And I did really well all day in terms of the food anyway.
Yeah.
So I was actually quite pleased with that I kept my snacking down, and I didn't really eat anything too bad. So if you go somewhere, have something good to eat before you go. That way you're not going to eat as much of the other food.
Yeah.
If you're drinking, what I find is mixing drinks with soda water rather than with sugary drinks.
Yeah.
I don't drink sugar. I just don't.
Yeah.
It makes me feel terrible. If I'm mixing it with alcohol, it's a guaranteed hangover.
And when you think about it too, like you wouldn't just for no reason just get like 12 cans of Coke and then just drink it all in one sitting, would you?
That's
but
exactly
the only
right.
reason why you're drinking is because you're drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
So why not try and at least minimise the damage, I suppose, by doing that.
And it's so simple. It's so simple to choose a better mixer.
Yeah.
If you're buying pre-mixed, there are much better choices available now. There's lots of... I know the vodka ones because that is what I happen to drink. But there's vodka pures, which are about one standard drink, and they're really low in sugar. There's a ginger ale one now, a Canadian Club, and it's also low in sugar. So I think...
Low-carb beers as well, even.
Low-carb beers.
They're
getting the message. So food manufacturers are getting the message, at least when it comes to alcohol, that people are looking for better choices so that they can go and socialise and not feel like they're blowing all their hard work. So the whole idea is for us to enjoy life, but there's always going to be a party. There's always going to be a birthday. There's always going to be an event. And if you always say yes in every single one of these situations, it's going to be very hard to achieve your goals. So the whole idea is to enjoy those moments, and to know when to go, hey, I'm going for a free-for-all, and other times to go, you know what, I'm going to say no this time, or hold back and maybe not, eat the entire cake.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I've got a housemate that's Italian, so I'm not going to refuse her food because it's so delicious.
I bet it is.
I'm kind of in the same vein, like, yeah, do you want to eat tonight? Yeah, I'm going to eat whatever you put in front of me because it's delicious, and I'm really grateful that you've made this food for me. So
I'm the same.
I'm not going to go, oh, no, I haven't, I've reached my intake for the day. I'm like, that pizza looks pretty good.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
I'll counteract that some other way.
And that's the thing, you can. So if you have had, and this is why I train hard, because it gives me more dietary flexibility.
Yeah.
I recognise that my fasting and my training, particularly the weight training has been crucial. The building of muscle mass has given me even more flexibility. So it just means that I can have something that I really want every now and then. And off the top of my head, my thing at the moment is, and it's horrible, but mint leaves.
Mint leaves? Like spearmint leaves?
Yeah, like the lollies.
Yeah, I could eat a whole bag of them in one sitting.
Them.
Yeah, I love them.
Okay, all right. Everybody else has looked at me like, you're a total freak.
No, they're like my thing as a kid that I always loved having. I think one birthday I had like a spearmint leaf cake, like had them all over the cake.
I never had a cake. Yeah. I'm jelly now.
Well, you can have all you want now.
I can now, can't I?
Yeah. Oh, it's really good. Well, I went to Eat Street last night and I had what they called a conut.
I was going to ask if you had the cronut. No.
Well, no, not a cronut. A cone nut, a Nutella cone nut. So it's different. It's a big ass cone, cinnamon donut cone with Nutella ice cream on the top. It's about this big. So,
see, I love cinnamon donuts.
I'm not going to do that like every day, but it's. I'm not going to say no if I'm going to like Eat Street or something. That's where you go to do that.
It's an experience, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's just having fun. But yeah, I just know full well that that's not something that you should be having every day, or maybe not even once a month. But yeah,
pretty sure that had your entire 6 months worth of sugar.
Yeah.
In that one thing.
It did. Yeah, I still got energy from last night.
I bet you do. Yeah. No, but you've proved my point.
Yeah.
There are times when you should just go and experience things. Yeah. And when I finally get to Eat Street, I'm probably going to have the same thing. I won't eat the ice cream because I don't like it. Yeah. But I'll definitely eat the cone because I love cinnamon donuts.
Don't worry, they've got like a whole alley for the desserts. You'll love it.
Yeah. Oh, look, I can do, if they've got cheese.
Yep.
That's where you'll find me.
The other thing I had was they have this big cheese wheel.
Yeah.
But it's all hollowed out. It's still got cheese in it, but it's reasonably hollowed out. They get pesto and Alfredo, I think, pasta. They put it in the wheel and then they mix it so the cheese melts around the pasta because it's hot, and they serve that up to you. So, once again, a lot of energy there for a while.
Yeah. So I'll probably have to fast a whole day beforehand and then maybe 3 days after.
Sounds like I'm due for about a 3-day fast now, but we'll see how we go. Awesome. So Naomi, I've noticed that you've built quite powerfully on social media, on Instagram and Facebook as well. And I've just followed that journey of everything progressing, and you've done a great job building an audience. I'm just wondering if you went into social media with any kind of strategies, or has it been like I'm guessing it's you've learned as you go from that reaction?
It's been a bit of a fluke, really.
Don't undersell yourself.
No, truly. One thing that I think Rachel and I need a bit more help with is social media. We need. We need a little bit of, guidance when it comes to your advertising and your marketing through social media. What I've found, though, that worked really well for me was just being me. Yeah. I would do posts where I would give people good information. So unfortunately, but fortunately for everybody else, unfortunately for me, fortunately for everyone else, one social media post can take me an hour because I have to write it all out. I fact check everything. Yeah. So I'll write it out and I think, I just want to double check X, Y, Z. Yeah. And I go away and I double check that the information is correct and it's up to date, because what I teach now in a year's time.
Changes,
absolutely. Yeah. Yep. I try and link to research where I can to show people where to look for, specific information. So I do take a lot of time with my social media posts, and I try and make it very valuable for people, where not only am I saying, well, this is what the research says, I then say, and this is how it applies to you. And so this is how you can take this and directly get benefit from it. There's no good me showing or saying to you, wow, this is the latest research. And you go, well, that's great. Now how do I actually do something with this?
How do I action that?
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think that's where a lot of people are in the health and fitness, not industry, but who follow health and fitness pages, sometimes they feel very overwhelmed by the volume of information, and they'll come away from listening to someone or reading something and they think, well, that was good, but I still don't know how to put it into practice.
Still confused.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like what we've done well is we've given good examples of practical application. And, you know, I do a lot of Facebook Lives, and people, it resonates with them because my kids are in and out of the videos. Felix in particular has become a little bit of a superstar.
Yeah.
Everyone, I got to
Cameo
a point,
appearances.
I got to a point where I realised people probably weren't watching me.
Yeah.
They were just waiting for Felix to pop his head up and what he was going to do and say and all the rest of it. So, I think that if you are serious about social media, you need to be authentic. I hate that word, you know, I'm just being my authentic self. No, but I think you do. You need to have, you have to be real. You can't have a social media persona and then be different in real life.
Yeah, totally.
It's obvious and people will see through it. I think people have become quite savvy with, you know, shysters and all the rest of it. And in the health and fitness industry, they are a dime a dozen. You know, there's a lot of people out there trying to sell you something. We tried to offer something different. We try to offer lots and lots of very helpful, useful, free stuff for people because I feel like that information should be freely available. But if you want, you know, some more personalised service, then I think then that's what you pay for, and that's what we provide in our programs. But social media is it's a weird thing. I've started having people come up and say hello to me because they follow me on Facebook. And it's the most surreal thing. And they'll say hi to Felix, and Felix just loses his mind.
You're both celebrities now. Like, that's it.
It's a bit strange. You just go, oh, and it's lovely. I love it when people come up and say hello because, you know, they tell me that things that we're doing and things that we're telling them, they're able to have
conversation.
And they're saying, I'm now doing this, like you just saying before that you'd started the fasting. That's amazing. Everyone should have access to this information. Yeah,
definitely.
So I get excited.
And that's great. And like you talk about, you know, people then approaching you when they see you out and about or whatnot. You know, all you're doing is personal branding. You know, that's what all of it's built around. And you talk about being authentic and things like that. There's no other way in my mind, because people have a really good BS meter these days as to what's going on. Because when something comes up now on social media, they're always wondering what it's about, why it's there, whatever, and they're making their, you know, they're doing numbers in their head like Terminator, like as to what's going on, going on there. You know, people aren't stupid these days. You can't really. There's so much. At least there's so much information out there for people to get to digest that there maybe wasn't before. So you know, everyone's sort of running those checks, and I feel like someone that spends a lot of time on social media too. It's quite easy to see who's being legit or who's not, and people will notice that. So I think things like you mentioned with Felix running through, like, it just shows that you're like everyone else, just trying to run your business, raise a family, X, Y, Z. You know, the being perfect, if things look so perfect, they're going to know these days, like, it's probably not like that all the time. In saying that though, I think that there's huge value for people running businesses to take a professional approach to their content, to their videos, their blogs, whatever they're doing.
Hence this situation.
Exactly. But realise that it's not the be all and end all, it's not the only thing. It's just part of a larger thing. I mean, you spoke about the Facebook Lives. They're terrific for engagement because people, you're jumping on there, you're talking ad lib, people are asking questions on the roll. I know sometimes I get on there and distract you with random questions about pizza and stuff like that. I think there was one there recently. I'm like, so you're saying I can eat a whole pizza and it doesn't matter? It's like, oh no, I'm saying that you can do it if you want, but it's probably not a good idea. I'm like, okay, I'm going to order a pizza now. But that's the thing is you don't know what people are going to say, you don't know what they're going to ask, and chances are on those platforms, you know, you might have 20, 30, 100, I don't know how many people jump on at a time, but you might have one person ask a question that's relevant for like another 20, and you've given value to those 20 odd people. You can always repurpose that content and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And it helps people, so people can engage with you and they can get to know you. And when they get to know you from a business perspective, and this is not why I've been doing it, you know, I'm not trying to get people to hand over money, but when people trust you, they are more likely then to purchase something from you. So from a business perspective, you do want to develop that trust. The business side, I guess, is always secondary to me just loving what I do. I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. I want to see people get healthy and fit. I want to see people connect the dots. You know, those aha moments to me are priceless. And I love that. And I love that I can be involved in that. But the Facebook Lives as well, you can't BS that.
No, you can't.
People are watching you live, they're asking you questions, and they have Google at their fingertips.
Yeah.
So if they ask you a question and you say blah, 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 and it's wrong, they can check, because they can go, oh, that sounds a bit strange, and they'll check it.
Yeah.
And you're recorded.
Yeah.
So whatever you say live,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you're saying it right. And which is why I think it's so important to say sometimes, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I've said it millions of times. I actually don't have a good answer for that.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because you can always go, you raise a good point. Do you know what? Let me check that. I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And then you can, you know, one thing I think that people are looking at it as, they're looking at it as like steroids, right? And I think it's a great analogy, because even people that take steroids to enhance their performance still have to do the hard work.
They do.
Right?
Yep.
Rightly or wrongly
This is
so,
not an
for whatever
endorsement
reason.
for steroids,
Yeah,
by the
no, we're just trying to make some sort of comparison here. You don't recommend steroids?
No.
Okay,
Not,
just
generally
on
not.
record.
Generally not. Especially not for women.
Not in your plans. Okay, cool. We'll get that one out of the way. But that's what people are looking at, is they just think, oh, I'll just start an Instagram account. I'll just start Facebook. It'll be right. Steroids.
Yeah.
It's not like that. You still have to do that heavy lifting.
You do.
And I think people are also forgetting what it's about. It's social media. It's to connect people socially. So you spoke about someone coming up and saying hello. I don't think that's like a weird thing now. Like 10 or even 5, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that might have been a bit weird to go up and talk to someone that you already feel like you know a bit about and have a conversation, especially if they're in your community too. You know, that's great. That's a chance for you to interact, because the thing is, that person's going to go, I met her the other day. She was lovely. Like, or like, I met him the other day. He was an arsehole in real life. You know what I mean? And that unfortunately, that bad news will spread a lot quicker than the good news. But I think maybe people are forgetting that, and I think that sounds like something that you've done well. Like, you can take that, not physical like relationship, that relationship you have with someone over technology, and then put it into real life. And I would say that you do that well too, because you do face-to-face sessions as well, don't you? So you then story tell with that and focus on your live sessions as well, or face-to-face sessions I should say, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We offer that many services. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of what we're doing, but one thing is that people find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, and then come and see me in person because of, getting to know me through social media. And they can see that whether or not they like what I'm offering or who I am, and it's fine. I'm not for everyone. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. But social media gives people an ability to try before you buy.
Exactly.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, and that's why I think that storytelling is great, because you can, over time, I don't mean just 1 or 2 posts or whatever, storytelling over time is so effective because that, like you said, the person that came up and spoke to you, like they've already made some kind of judgment about you, you know what I mean? Rightly or wrongly so. Why not use that as an opportunity to tell what you're about anyway? Just be like, well, this is it. This is me. So make any judgment, at least you've got more information than what you otherwise would have. And then, hopefully they can come to you for what you're offering.
Because you're funneling people already. So with the social media, it's bringing people to me that are my people. So before someone actually even meets me, there's a pretty good chance that we are right for each other because I have been on social media, they've been watching me, they've been listening to my stories and the information I'm sharing. And so we've already formed, without me even being there, we've formed that relationship, and there's already that trust that is there. And trying to get people to trust you, it's hard. People are very skeptical, and I understand why they are. I'm a skeptic. I'm a huge skeptic, and
you have to approach everything with some healthy skepticism.
You do. Unfortunately, I tend to go a bit further. I'm a bit of a cynic. I tend to be a bit dubious of everything these days. So I've got to try and rein mine back a little bit. But that's what I like about social media. I mean, I think one of the things is that you want to go to a restaurant. What's the first thing you do?
Oh, you're just going in their Instagram or something.
Yeah, because you want those recommendations. You want that personal recommendation. You want to know that people have been going to this restaurant and they loved it. And if you can get someone you know and making a good recommendation, then you're going to go and do that. And that's really what it's all about on social media, is that I'm letting people get to know me. They're seeing my heart, they're seeing who I am. And so when I make a recommendation, you know, they're going to trust that recommendation. And I'm acutely aware of, I guess, the power that brings, and which is why I've always been so careful about making recommendations when it comes to things like supplements.
Yeah.
Because I don't want my name against something that I'm not really sure about.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what ingredients are in it. You know, we were talking about protein powder recently, and, you know, a lot of people always ask me about it, and I just am not willing to say, hey, take that brand.
Yeah.
And, you know, and when it comes to like sponsorship deals and all the rest, advertising, all that sort of stuff, you know, I have to be very, very careful about who I allow myself to align with. And I think, just going off on a tangent for a second, I think this is a problem that we're having with the other dietary guidelines, is that we've got the food industry in bed with the government and the Dietitians Association of Australia. You can't tell me that if Campbell's and Nestle, these huge carbohydrate food manufacturers, are sponsoring the DAA, that doesn't have some pulling power. Of course it does. If I, Maddie, gave you 100 grand, would you feel like maybe you owed me something?
I owed you, like, if I was someone that was going to promote your brand or whatever, well,
you know, I give you 100 grand to put into your business to do whatever. You know what I mean? And I say to you, well, Maddie, I don't really like the way that you just did that last video.
Yeah.
Would you sort of feel a sense of obligation towards me?
Well, I'd feel that I was owned by you to a regard, you know, if it was put across in that way,
Yeah. Because I'm now saying to you, well, I don't really like what you did in your business there. I'd like you to change that.
Yeah.
Because I've given you money, you now have that sense of obligation towards me. So whilst ever there is money going from the food industry to the DAA, from the food industry to the government, it's very hard to accept that their guidelines and their recommendations are not biased. So I think that, you know, with social media, if you are going to, you know, get yourself into a position where people are listening to you, you are an influencer, you have to be very careful with that. You have to be really, really careful about who you align with, who you allow to, because people will give you things, but then with that, you have to reciprocate that. So it's an interesting.
There's no such thing as a free lunch.
No. Ever. It's always tit for tat.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. There's always some kind of trade-off when you do those sorts of things.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I love most of the social media side of things. You know, getting to know people, getting to, you know, having an insight into people's lives, and, you know, hearing that things that they're doing that I've recommended that they're loving. I'm seeing people doing my HIIT programs. I'm seeing people trying fasting. I'm seeing people going, you know what, I've always hated breakfast, but I thought I had to eat it. But after hearing what you just said, I don't have breakfast anymore, and I love it.
It's great.
And I'm like,
exactly.
And
the thing, what you're talking about there too, with, you know, building that following. I guess one of the things that are most difficult is to continually churn out content, which you do so well. But what you're building really is a machine. Like you're building a community. You're also leveraging the positive feedback that you're getting from people. You can also use it as a good platform to answer things where people are confused or perhaps a bit negative. One thing that I talk to people about is, like, if someone leaves like a comment that you don't like they could have a legitimate reason to complain about something, or they could just be disgruntled, negative, hater, whatever you want to call it. Still, like, respond to them, because the thing is, logical people will see that, you know, you've responded to what they've said. You know, I think it's better to see how those things are handled, rather than like, oh, they deleted my comment, here's like the screenshot kind of thing. You know, any logical person will see, oh, well, that makes sense. Like, that was either a simple human error, or that person was being unreasonable. Right? And that's, you'd also talk about who you're trying to attract to your business or to your page or what have you. You don't have to appeal to everyone.
No. And sometimes in trying to be someone for everyone, you lose who you are.
Exactly.
You are good for the right people. And that's not everybody. And I recognise that my niche is women. Between the ages of about, 30 to 50, that's my big bracket. Probably a lot of them are mums. And it makes sense, because that's my age. I've got kids, so it is it's who I'm naturally attracting. And I think, I'm just thinking about those negative comments. I have had people putting things on my business page where I'm like, you know what, that's not cool. But I left it there. And I allowed everyone to see this person being an idiot on social media. And I just said, I'm not going to delete your comment. You can stay there, because people will see you know, who you are and what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you don't jump onto someone's page and be aggressive and, you know, carry on like a pork chop, because you wouldn't do that to their face. So why are you doing it on social media? So if people want to write bad things, and I don't get a lot, I've only ever had a few, what I tend to find is really interesting. Your community gets very protective of you, and they come out firing.
Well, what I was going to say is if you are like you are on social media, you almost build a bit of an army, and you're just like, yep, just going to sit back and let them deal with this, and you're just like, thanks guys. that's all you got to do sometimes.
And it's what happens. People do.
And they go, I feel silly now, as I said that. You know, the person that made that comment.
Yeah. And I hope they do feel silly, because I think we have to be really careful. Social media, it's a great thing, it's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
We've got all these people who are saying some outrageous things on social media, and you often sit back and think, I wonder if you would actually say that to someone's face. And the answer is no, of course you wouldn't. So when someone acts like a goose on my page, it can stay there.
Let them be a goose.
Let them be a goose, and then let everybody else deal with them. I don't even say anything. I just go, okay.
Yeah, we'll see how this plays out in about 3 hours. Yeah. Awesome. It's a good way. It's a good way to respond to it. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on today, Naomi. I've really appreciated what you've shared with us today about health and fitness and the social media side of things. I've really got a lot out of it, and I think the viewers and the listeners will. Really admired to see your journey so far in building your business and what you put out there. I think you're doing a really great thing.
Thank you.
No worries. And I'm keen to see where it all goes from here. New year, so probably new goals and things like that. I'm keen to see where it all goes for you. So
awesome. Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
No worries. And everyone else listening or watching, I'll put some links in the comments. You can go and like Naomi's page, where she gives out a lot of great content about her industry. If you want to leave your 2 cents about the episode as well, happy for you guys to do that. Keen to see what you've got and any feedback that you have for us. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. See you later. Bye. Cool.